Hi, I'm Najdah Auni, Binti Sanazi, metric number 050150, and now I will be presenting about the first step of the management process, which is defining public relations problem. Public relations practitioners use theory and evidence in a four-step problem-solving process. The first step is defining the problem or opportunity. The second one is planning and programming. The third step is taking action and communicating, and step 4 is evaluating the program. The first step creates the perception that something is wrong or needs to be improved. It involves monitoring knowledge, opinions, and behaviors of internal and external publics. It is basically an organization's intelligence function. A role of research in strategic planning is to monitor political, technical, and social environment. With research, they can present and advocate proposals supported by theories and data, use information to describe and understand the situation, take out assumptions about publics and public relations consequences, and the main purpose of research is to reduce uncertainty in decision making. This is the research benchmarks model. It illustrates that research is used to plan, manage, and evaluate public relations programs. Before the program begins, research is used to define the problem situation and formulate the program strategy, represented by time 1 state. During the program, it is used to monitor the program in progress and to adjust the strategy, represented by time 1A and time 1B states. After the program, research is used to manage and document overall program impact and effectiveness, represented by time 2. Time 2 will become the next time 1 benchmark for the next program cycle. A research orientation is necessary nowadays, so it creates a burden for public relations practitioners, so some are scared and burdened by it. A researcher stated that research is something simple and it is a state of mind, a welcoming state of mind for a change that we need to go out and look for. It is applicable to anything, either personal matter or even business matter. It is for problem solving and composer mind. According to Rosie and Freeman, research is a political and management process. It is an input into the complex mosaic that develops policy decisions for the planning, design, implementation, and continuation of programs. Now, modern managers in organizations, they are fact-minded, so they like figures. So, research-based approach is the best effective way to be presented to them. Formal research and various informal methods of gaining information will help the research.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Noor Binti Zainuddin, and I will be continuing the presentation with listening as a systematic research and problem statement. Now let's take a look at the listening as a systematic research first. So what is listening? The International Listening Association defines listening as the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken and or non-verbal messages. And effective public relations start with listening, which requires openness and systematic effort. A communication where opposing ideas passing each other in different one-way channels often happen. For example, in management versus labor bargaining, both sides only communicate their own point without even listening to the other's view. This is an example of unsuccessful communication. Next is feedback. Webelschram, sorry if I mispronounced the name, explains feedback as a powerful tool. If feedback does not exist, delayed or feeble, the communicator might feel doubtful and concerned, and it may also develop frustration and hostility in the audience. For example, when you are talking and the other person does not give you any feedback or their response is delayed or weak, you might think that they don't understand what you are trying to say, or you may even feel like they think that you are boring. and maybe talking nonsense and all. Feedback tells communicator how his message is being received. Failure to listen often leads to purposeless communication. Another example of failed communication is that when you are not listening to someone talking, the messages will not reach you. That is why it became a purposeless communication. Moreover, not listening when someone is talking to you can be offensive, and it may give them a bad impression of you. Based on this illustration, you can tell that a person will be irritated when they are not listened to. Second subtopic is problem statement. Firstly, a problem statement must be written in present tense and it describes the situation. Avoid words such as will, could, and should because these words address some desired future state but not what is happening now. Second, problem statement describe the situation in specific and measurable terms like what is the source of concern, where is this a problem, when is it a problem, who is involved or affected, how are they involved or affected, and why is this a concern to the organization and its public. Thirdly, a problem statement does not imply solution or place blame. If it does, program strategies are predetermined and limited. An example of a problem statement that has implied solution is the statement of we have a communication problem. From this statement, the communication may be a part of solution instead of a problem. That is all from me. Thank you for listening, and now let's listen to the next presenter.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Efendi and my metric number is 050883. Now I am going to present to you about situation analysis. Situation analysis is a complete collection of information regarding a situation. It usually came in a form of a sentence or even a paragraph. It contains all the information that will be able to pinpoint problems with details. It is also known as a fact book, where they store all the information in a hard copy or even a soft copy. There are two factors that affect the situation analysis. The first one is internal factors. Internal factors deal with the organizational policies, procedures, and action based on this problem situation. Through detailed observation, reviews of perceptions, and action of key actors in the organization unit that are relevant to the problems. In internal factors, it also includes communication audit, which is a systematic documentation how the company communicates with the public. It also gives a clear picture of how the organization is doing and what they are going to do to solve the problem. Here is the example of the systematic documentation. The first one is newsletters, annual reports, brochures, press materials, websites, and video programs. Okay, the next factor is external factors. External factor is done through detailed observation of who is involved, affected, and how. Well, most likely it is the gathering information of the stakeholders about what they know, how they feel about that, and what they do that materialize the problem. So, when the information is gathered, the organization will devise a plan and strategize on how to solve it. But if they got the wrong information, they will run the risk of creating a plan and strategies to solve the problem that doesn't exist. So ultimately, the program and strategies will fail them. That's all from me. Now move on to the next presenter.
SWOT analysis is a strategic planning technique used to help a person or organization identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to business competition and project planning. It is divided into categories, which again can be divided into more categories. It is to help with those in charge of the research to map out the next plan, to map out their next strategy in their projects. What is informal research method or informal method? Informal research method, it looks at the values and qualities of the research. It is good for pre-testing formal strategies, but the findings are more generalized, meaning it cannot be projected to represent an entire audience. For an example, personal interviews or focus groups. Let's take it like when you are researching about a certain community. For instance, you are researching about the Orang Asli community. That is an example of informal method. So when having a personal contact in PR, it is like you are owning a large library. It's like a huge library with many information. All you gotta do is find which information that you need for this particular research you are doing. Now, personal contacts in public relation is basically you are interviewing the person, the knowledgeable person in that particular field you are researching on. So let's take an example. For instance, someone who is if you are doing a PR, you're about to send a message through a anti-drug campaign, you would need to have very high knowledge in and also some experience in what is it like to be a drug addict, what does a drug addict has to go through when they were taking those drugs. Some would go as far as joining a rehab center, being a part of the inmates, so they could have like a face-to-face, a first-hand experience of what a drug addict during rehab had to go through. And some would go to rehab center so they would have an interview with the person who was once a drug addict, so they would know how their life was when they were a drug addict, what kind of psychological experience they had to go through while they were a drug addict. Now, these informations are very crucial when it comes to PR, because when you are talking to people, when you are delivering a message from one organization, one party to the big public, you will need to make sure that your message is very clear, very informative, and also are not lies. So, in other words, when you're doing research, you need to do it. You need to dig in below the surface level. So that is why you need to have a personal context. You need to have you need to gain some experiences in your research. You need to find people who are very knowledgeable in the field you are research, which is then we will move on to the other one, which is key informants. Like I said before, if you remember correctly, I said that personal contacts are like a huge library, and all you have to do when you're inside the library is that you just pick whichever books or magazines or journals that you need for your research. Now, for this topic, inside this library, the books, the journals, the information available, we will be labeling them as key informants. Now, informants, as we all know, the general meaning is a person who gives out information. That's what informant, sorry. That's what informant is in general term. So key informants means that a specific person who is very knowledgeable in that field you are researching about. So let's take an example. with the current situation, we have the COVID-19 pandemic issue, and we see that every day in the news that KKM, our health ministry, is always broadcasting latest information for COVID-19. Now, these information, the statistics of the positive cases, number of deaths, number of total cases per day, all throughout the year, throughout the period, they are given by doctors who are very knowledgeable who is very well acknowledged in that field they are researching on, the COVID-19. That's what I mean. These illnesses, they did laboratory research. They dig in through past journals about COVID-19, so they know what to explain to the public regarding the issue. So that is why it is important to know your key informant. You don't need someone who knows something on the surface level. You need someone who knows even deeper below the surface level when it comes to the research, because as I said before, and I'll say it again, information is very important. It is a crucial thing when it comes to public relation.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Aisyah Omar, and now I'll continue this presentation with more informal and exploratory methods. Focus group relates to a small group consists of 6 to 12 people having discussions on specific issues in depth, and it is observed by an effective moderator. This method is used to see how people would react and also to gather information useful to be used in formal research methods. For example, a laptop company needs customer feedback on an upcoming product. So what they do, they would ask some questions to these participants, and they would see how they would respond towards the product. Like this one. The major strength of focus group is that it generates open, spontaneous, as well as detailed discussions, although it may not be like the previous one. Community forum is similar to public meeting, where members of community would gather in a certain location and share their ideas, opinions, and concerns on particular issues. This can also include open town hall meetings and engagement community meetings. For example, a PIBG meeting organized by the school to solicit information and to ask opinion from parents about additional school fees. The good thing about community forum is that it allows two-way communication between the organizers and the community. But it may not be as extreme as this one community meeting.
Daripada kita buat maksir dengan cakap si Hussein ni, baik kita bakar je rumah Kak Limah tu.
Advisory committees and boards relates to a group of people, usually volunteers, provide continuous feedbacks to detect possible changes in public opinion on issues for an organization. This group majorly serves for long-running programs and affairs. For example, hospitals and police departments, they usually use this method to gather information from the community they serve. So why would they do that? Because these feedbacks they receive actually can help them to make better improvements for the community.
Hi.
Hello. Ombuds officer is someone who listens to the concerns of internal organizational public. He or she also reviews organizational policies as well as resolve disputes between the organization and its employee. such as when a staff member complains about a manager gender treatment differences. The Ombuds officer will listen to these concerns and investigate this problem in details and provide solutions. Like this one.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the
I
reason?
just explained.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
Just to let you know, Ombuds officer doesn't choose any side, and much more proper than the previous one. I think that's all from me. I hope you enjoy watching my presentation. How about you listen to the next one? That's all. Bye and thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Farahana Binti Alias and my metric number is 050287. And I will be presenting about informal method. The first one for me is call-in telephone lines. Toll-free 800 numbers are used to obtain instant feedback and to monitor the concerns and interests of various public. Companies use this method because they recognize the PR value of customers' access to cooperation and of answering questions directly from them. Some organizations also use call-in lines to field questions from their employees. Some hospitals use it to provide information and take complaints from their patients and their patients' family. Many government agencies use them to help citizens find their way in the bureaucratic means. Call-in service must be used with sincerity to be effective. Next is mail and email analysis. Periodic analysis of incoming mail, both traditional and online, is another economical way of collecting information. Stakeholders' correspondence reveals areas of favor and disfavor and information needed. Letter writers tend to be more critical than commendatory. Letters may serve as early warnings of problems, but they do not reflect a cross-section of public opinion. The exploratory nature of mail and email analysis provides information useful for detecting concerns and problems before they become widespread. The next one is social media and other online sources. PR practitioners can monitor what is being said about their organizations online to prevent cyber crisis, because rumors that originate from the internet often make their way into print and broadcast media before the company even know they exist. This is according to Jackson and Stokes. Rumors on the internet has the potential to damage your organization's reputation, its brand franchise can suffer, and its heart-earned goodwill can be diminished. Chat rooms, online forums, discussion groups, and blog posts can also be important sources of feedback from the internet. It is best to serve as early warning of a problem. And the final method is field reports. Many organizations have district agents, field representatives, or recruiters who live in and travel the territories they served. These agents should be trained to listen and observe and be given an easy, regular means of reporting their observations to their organization. They can serve as the eyes and the ears of an organization. However, such representatives tend to report what they think will sit well with their bosses. This is gonna cause a bias in their reports. As such, field reports must be used with caution. That is all from me. I will pass it to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Amira. Now that you have learned about informal method, let's learn about formal method. Let's go!
Okay, let's now learn about formal method. What is formal method? Okay, formal method is actually designed to gather data from an entire population or only a portion of population using objective measures like sampling from the survey. This is what we call as census versus sample. Okay, a formal method is used to help answer questions that cannot be answered using informal method. Okay, before conducting the research, questions and objectives must be clearly determined.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Yoo-hoo!
Okay, I just want to add, formal method may have advantages, but it also have disadvantages. Okay, for example, researchers, they can become more concerned about the methods used to obtain the data than the purpose of the study itself. That's why questions and objectives must be clearly determined before they begin the research. It is to make them not sway from the purpose of the study. So, okay, there are three types of formal method. The first one is secondary analysis, second is content analysis, and the third and the last one is survey. So let's go one by one.
Alright, the first formal method is secondary analysis. What is it? Okay, secondary analysis is when you or us, we collect information second hand and we reuse the data or research findings from other researchers. Okay, there are many disadvantages of secondary analysis, but we can overcome those when we learn the method that they use to obtain the data and be honest while reporting on it. Okay, there are two types of secondary analysis. The first one is qualitative method. Okay, qualitative data. Okay, qualitative data, it uses open-ended format.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Just want to say, for open-ended format, you can write any answers you want. Long answers, short answers, no one cares. Just write it. Okay, that's it.
And it is usually found in trusted research organizations like US Census. Okay, the second data is quantitative data. It uses closed-ended format.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Closed-ended format uses forced choice questions, like when you answers exam, multiple choice questions. You are given choices. You can't write your own answers.
And usually is found in social artifacts like newspapers, blogs, emails, diaries, and others.
Moving on to content analysis. Okay, what is content analysis? It is an evaluation of the content of documents like print media and broadcast coverage using objective, systematic, and quantitative description. Okay, it is an attempt to objectively code and describe the content of communication. There are three goals for content analysis. The first is identify important aspect of content, like relationship between words or the concepts. Second is focus on individuals or groups' intention, like behavioral response or attitude. The third one is to determine behavioral and psychology. For example, like did the author have bias or prejudice? Okay, there are two types of content analysis. The first is conceptual. It determines the existence and frequency of concepts in a text. For example, you choose one concept and count how many times it is used in a text. Second one is relational. It further examines the relationships among concepts in that particular text. So let's move on to the last one.
Alright, the third and the last formal method I'm going to explain to you is survey. Yes, survey is when you gather information from a sample of population on mass scale, and usually it uses quantitative method like written or oral questions, and the data that you get from the survey is used to make a statistical analysis, and from that we can know how variety of variables measured interact. Okay, my friend Lisa is going to explain to you the 5 types of survey. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I am Noor Khaliesah, and today I am going to present to you on the formal method, which is surveys. So there are 5 modes of research survey, which are mail, telephone, in-person, cross, and also online survey. I am going to explain briefly what the surveys are and also their advantages as well as their disadvantages in the next part, so stay tuned. Mail survey is one of a traditional survey where the questionnaire is sent to the respondents through mail services. The advantages of this survey is there is no biased attitude towards the interviewer, and the interviewer will have access to unreachable respondents, for example, people who live outside of the country or people who doesn't have access to the internet.
The disadvantages for mailed surveys is low response rates because the respondents may find it a hassle to mail back the response or survey. Plus, the respondent may not understand or having difficulty in answering the questions given.
Moving on to the next survey, which is in-person survey. It is a survey that requires a direct interaction between the respondent and also the interviewer. The advantages for this survey is that the interviewer can assure that their respondents answer the surveys completely.
Another advantages for in-person surveys is there's also a chance to observe or record their reactions during the one-to-one survey. But there will be less anonymity for respondents because sometimes some prefer to answer the surveys in private.
It also causes a great inconvenience for the respondents to meet the interviewer, especially if they are not familiar with the interviewer. Telephone surveys involve the interviewer giving a call to the respondents themselves. It is a faster and more cost-effective way to collect information, and it also provides somewhat greater anonymity to the respondents because they do not have to meet in person.
The disadvantages for telephone surveys is there will be limited complexity of questions because of the time limitation. The interviewer needs to give simple questions only. It can be intrusive for customers as well because some find it a nuisance to be interviewed through a phone call.
The next survey, which is online survey, is handing out questionnaires through the internet like Google Forms or emails. The advantages of this survey for the respondents is it is more convenient for them because it is simple and also straightforward.
Online surveys is more convenient for researchers since the data can be generated right away. But online surveys has low response rates because people may have overlooked the survey or mistook it as spam email. It also has limited sampling and respondent availability as it is quite hard to get a list of adequate email address.
Last but not least is the cross-sectional versus the trend and panel survey. Cross-sectional study is collecting sample or data of a population or public at a single point in time. Example, collecting data on past smoking habits and current diagnosis of lung cancer. Panel study is a study that is designed to learn how people change over time or to track a process. For example, parents' level of education or level of bullying in certain school. So that is all from my part and that is all from us. So thank you so much everyone for listening.